You know, there's this hidden digital battle raging all around us every single day. And the most dangerous fights? They're the ones that start before anyone even knows they're under attack. Today, we're diving deep into the world of zero-day threats. So, I want you to think about this for a second. What actually happens in that critical window of time before the software makers and all the security experts have any clue that a vulnerability is actively being used against them? That's the heart of what we're going to uncover today. Okay, so let's break this down. A zero-day vulnerability is basically a secret backdoor in a piece of software you use every day. The most important word here, the one that makes all the difference, is unknown. The company that built it, they don't know about it. Your antivirus software, it has no idea. But somebody out there does. And that's where all the trouble begins. And that gets us right to the name zero day. It literally means that when an attacker decides to use this secret flaw, the defenders, the good guys, have exactly 0 days of warning. The discovery of the problem and the attack itself often happen at the exact same time. There is absolutely no time to prepare. So that brings us to our first section, really understanding the nature of this invisible threat. We're going to look at what makes these attacks so powerful, so incredibly potent. And spoiler alert, it all comes down to secrecy. I mean, think about it from the attacker's point of view. Your greatest asset is the element of surprise. You're using a weapon that nobody has a defense for, because nobody even knows the weapon exists. You can move through systems, steal data, cause all kinds of chaos, and do it completely undetected. Why? Because all the security software out there is looking for known threats, not something brand new, something completely unknown. This whole situation sets up this incredibly high-stakes race against the clock. And this isn't just a simple story of one group against another. It's a really complex conflict with several key players, and all of them are operating under some pretty immense pressure. So you've got these three opposing forces in a constant tug-of-war. On one side, you have the hackers. Their goal? Exploit the flaw for as long as possible, for profit or just to cause disruption. In the middle, you've got the security researchers. They're like the digital detectives hunting for any strange behavior that might reveal the flaw. And then on the other side, you've got the vendors, the software companies themselves, who, once they find out, have to scramble like mad to build and release a fix, what we call a patch. And listen, this is not theoretical stuff. It happens all the time. Just look at what went down in August of 2025. Attackers were already inside systems, actively using flaws in massive products from Citrix and Apple before anyone had a clue. It wasn't until late August that researchers finally spotted the suspicious activity. By the time emergency patches came out in September, the bad guys had already had weeks to do whatever they wanted. That gap, that's the zero-day window. So this raises a huge question, right? If you can't search for a threat you know about, how in the world do you find an invisible one? Well, that takes us to the digital crime scene and the incredible forensic work it takes to uncover an attack that leaves no familiar fingerprints. Investigators have this really methodical playbook. They start by analyzing all the network traffic, looking for unusual patterns or data flows. They'll examine a computer's live memory because that's where an attack that never even touches the hard drive might be hiding. They have to sift through absolute mountains of system logs, searching for any tiny abnormal event. And that's a big if, they find the malicious code, they have to work backwards to reverse engineer it and figure out how it works. So the crucial takeaway here is the mindset shift. They stop looking for what is bad, and they start looking for what is weird. Instead of just matching signatures of known viruses, they use behavioral monitoring to spot a program doing something it shouldn't be. They use anomaly detection to find anything that deviates from normal, everyday patterns. And they use a cool technique called sandboxing, where they can safely detonate a suspicious file in a sealed-off environment just to see what it does. You know, this quote from a security analyst just hits the nail on the head. The danger is absolute, right up until the moment it's weaponized. And from that second forward, it's just a desperate race to catch up. All right, so after all that, you're probably asking, okay, but what can I actually do about this? Let's get to our final section, surviving the first 24 hours. Because here's the good news. While you can't predict a zero-day, you can absolutely prepare for one. Okay, here it is, your defensive playbook. First, rapid patching. This is non-negotiable. The moment a fix is released, you apply it. immediately. Use those behavioral security tools we just talked about. Monitor every single device or endpoint that's connected to your network. You've got to isolate and sandbox any new files you don't trust. And this is a big one. You have to train your people so they know exactly what to do the second an unknown threat is detected. Look, at the end of the day, you can't build a wall high enough to stop a threat you don't even know exists. So the best defense isn't really a wall at all. It's a combination of speed, so you can react fast, constant monitoring so you can spot strange behavior, and solid preparation so you have a well-drilled plan for when the inevitable finally happens. And this all brings us to the final and maybe the most critical question of all. Looking at these strategies, I want you to honestly think about your own systems, your own data. Would you be ready? Would you survive those first 24 hours? That's the question everyone needs to be asking themselves before day zero arrives.